Hi there everybody, it's Heidi from Workable Wellness. I am here today because tomorrow is Go Home on Time Day. Now I thought that this was very timely there so we could actually discuss if this is really possible to go home on time when we have so much to do at work. Now us Australians we have very strong work ethics. In fact, we are renowned globally for our strong commitment to work. The problem of this, of course, is though that sometimes this overwork and overcommitment actually has an impact on our physical and mental health. And that's because we don't know where to draw the line. Now, the Australian Institute were the ones who first started this initiative about Go Home on Time, and they started it back in 2009 when they did some research around the overwork of Australians. And what they found was that over 50% of full-time Australian workers were feeling overwhelmed with their workload. 1 in 4 of those people were actually experiencing anxiety because of this, and that there was a whopping 128 billion, that's with a B, billion dollars that employees have donated back to their employers with unpaid overtime. So this overwork and overtime is a conversation that really needs to happen, because it's important to recognize that work is not our full life. You know, we have a meld. There's no doubt that in the kind of world we're living in now, there is a lap over, but it is not our whole life. And sustainable hours are really going to be a win-win-win for everybody. Win for an employee because they're able to rest and rejuvenate when they need to, but focus and concentrate when they have to at work. It's a win for employers and business owners because when the employees are their best selves, because they're not stressed out and overwhelmed and full of anxiety, they're able to perform at their best during the workday. And it's of course a win for an organisation, because when an organisation gets to have great people who are really thriving in their work environment, there's a big impact on retention, attracting top talent, keeping top talent, and this all impacts culture and the bottom line. So the 5 themes that I want to talk to you today around this topic are unrealistic workload expectations, the mid-afternoon exhaustion, mountains of meetings. I'm actually putting my fingers up here, but you can't really see. And number 4 is distracted by distraction. And number 5 is can't help but say yes. Now, there's no need to scribble anything down, because if you go across to my website, you'll be able to actually download the PDF with all the information and action items that I'm going to go through right now. So you can get that at www.workablewellness.com.au/go home on time. And, you know, this could be something that you have at your desk, or perhaps you can share it with one of your colleagues who you know is struggling to find some kind of balance. All right, let's start with number one, unrealistic workload expectations. Now, unfortunately, some of these things are going to be strategies that you can put in place that, not unfortunately, fortunately, that you'll be able to put in place. But I think what's important to remember is that sometimes it's just little micro changes that actually can make big differences to your life. So please don't think you have to put all of them in place. I'm sure just 1 or 2 of them will actually help you make some change. So, number 1, unrealistic workload expectations. Now, when we are within an organisation that perhaps doesn't have great organisational policies around reflecting what is needed from their people, this kind of overwhelm from overload occurs. And it's a real tough one, because often we feel like we don't really have a lot of control over that. But there are a few little things that you can put in place. The first one is, firstly, find a trusted colleague that you can have a chat with, because you want to know if this is the normal cultural expectation within your organisation for this overload, or is it something specific to your role that you have within that organisation. So first, it's really important to determine that. Secondly, it's important that you are able to perhaps look at what you have got coming up and find if there's any way that perhaps you can reprioritise the timeline, the deadline, or even whether somebody else could be doing the project. Thirdly, this is the toughest, and this is where I've heard some horror stories. Being able to, obviously, depending on the relationship you have with your direct report and your manager, your leader, will depend on whether you can actually have a really open, honest conversation about this topic. And unfortunately, when I'm doing kind of in-house workshop programs, I hear some bad stories about having these discussions, but on the other hand, I also hear some really good ones, because there are some great leaders out there who really have a lot of compassion and empathy for their people and wanting them to be able to perform at their best, which means they can't be overloaded. The second theme that I wanted to talk to you about is about that 3 p.m. slump that goes on, that mid-afternoon exhaustion that occurs. And I think we've all experienced a 3 p.m. slump. Now, it's really important to understand that once we kind of go into that slump, it's really hard to come back from. So, they always say prevention is better than cure, and I couldn't agree more on that. So instead of waiting till the slump occurs and then grabbing caffeine and chocolate to help with the slump, why not put things in place a little earlier in the day so you actually don't feel so tired? Because when your brain and body is just, going into this kind of lethargic mode, it's really difficult to get everything done so you can go home on time. What we want to do is put things in place so you actually don't get to that 3 p.m. slump. So 2 things I can really recommend. Firstly, is to take a lunch break. Yes, I know. Sometimes it feels like we don't have time because we've got so much to do. But I can assure you that if you go outside and have a break, get into the fresh air, move your body so there's some more blood flow, give your brain a chance to rest and rejuvenate from devices. So you're going to leave that over there in your drawer, in your desk drawer. It's going to make such a difference, because, we need to give ourselves a break. Our brain needs a break from doing what we're doing. And I like to think of it like if you think of going to the gym and you're doing bicep curls, you're doing curl after curl after curl after curl. Well, eventually you've got to rest that muscle. It's only going to be able to perform later in the day if you give it a rest. You just can't keep flogging your biceps. Well, your brain is a muscle too, and it also needs a rest. And if you give it a rest at lunch from all your work devices, social media, don't use that time to catch up on your social media feeds. If you give it a rest, you're really unlikely to have such a big impact of that 3 p.m. slump. The other part of that, of course, is to nourish your body well at lunchtime. Choose foods that are really good for your brain and body. Whole grain breads. If you're having pasta, have wholemeal pasta with tomato-based sauces rather than cream-based sauces. Get some fish into your food at lunch. It's great for the brain. A packet of blueberries. Let's, get all those superfoods to help us fire up and be our best selves. Fruit, veggies, salads without cream sauce, have green juices and smoothies, or everything I know I don't need to tell you this, but it's sometimes a good reminder to have someone remind us of what can actually make such a difference to the way we feel in the afternoon. So number 3 is mountains of meetings. Oh my gosh, it just seems like we can often go from meeting to meeting. Then those meetings often don't have any kind of outcome. They're so frustrating. and it feels like such a time waster. Unfortunately, this is one of those ones that can be a little out of our control, but there are some things that we can do and put in place so that we're not overwhelmed by meeting after meeting after meeting. And the first thing is to, really have conversations with people about the necessity of a meeting. Only invite people who you know are going to stick to agenda, who are decision makers, who aren't going to waffle, and who are going to follow up and act and take action after the meeting, so you don't have to have anything following up too soon. The second thing is to have someone who is really assertive, look after the agenda, be the chairperson, so they can stick to the timelines. And of course, having an agenda with timelines, with amounts of time put with each agenda item is really, really crucial, so that somebody can actually stick to that timeline and wrap things up really quickly if they're going over. On that blog page, I've actually got a really great infographic around this problem with meetings. So if you go over to that, it's a really great one to download and share around. All right, number 4 is we are distracted by distraction. We are an overconnected society who is addicted to our devices and a slave to our notifications. So, all day long, there seems to be sounds, pop-ups, sliders, vibrations, notifications left, right, and center that interrupt what we do and take our focus away from getting things done. And when we are this distracted, it means we just do not get our work and projects and deadlines done as efficiently as we would if we could really focus. So it's really important that when you have a deadline, when you want to go home on time, that you turn them all off. Get your work done. Deal with emails, retweets, Facebook comments, Dropbox sliders, emails after you get your work done. It is revolutionary when you turn it all off, when you need to focus and concentrate. Please give it a go. The other problem with that is if you are in open office space, investing in some really good quality noise cancelling headphones can make a really big difference when there is a lot of activity and noise. I mean, collaboration is really fantastic and energizing when you are part of it. But when you are trying to get things done so you can go home, it's really distracting. So get some headphones to help you with that. Now, the final theme that I wanted to talk to you is about when you can't help but say yes. I read this great book recently called Procrastination on Purpose, and it talked about the fact that, when we consciously say yes to things that don't really matter to us, we're unconsciously saying no to things that do matter to us. And we do this a lot. We do it a lot because of our fear of missing out, our fear of not being promoted, our fear of not being included, our fear of not being promoted. So it's a real problem, but once we recognize it, we can start to do a few things about it. So, for example, when we say yes, when we consciously say yes to another meeting, or we consciously say yes to collaborating on another project that is really not part of our job description, then we are unconsciously saying no to going home on time. We're unconsciously saying no to spending more time with our families, to exercising, to getting great food that we cook rather than getting late night takeout. We're unconsciously saying no to reading our new book, to studying our course, to hanging out with our friends, to visiting our aging parents, and to reading goodnight books to our children. It's a really powerful thing to understand that when we consciously say yes to things that don't matter to us, we are unconsciously saying no to the things that do matter. Now, across on that blog, I have some really great responses that you can practice and learn by rote, so that you, when you're asked to do something that you don't want to do, and it means that you're saying yes to something that isn't something that matters to you or that you need to. They're just some really helpful expressions to help you say no. So they're those 5 themes. We had unrealistic work expectations, the mid-afternoon exhaustion, 3 p.m. slump. We had the mountain of meetings, distracted by distraction, and can't help but say yes. I hope you have been able to pick up something during those 5 themes that will help you make some small change. So just to reiterate, it only takes micro changes to make a big impact sometimes. So just choose something that is specific for your personal and professional situation. Again, if you go to workablewellness.com.au/go home on time, you'll be able to download a PDF with all these action items in them, so that you can put on your desk or share around with your colleagues. But I really hope we can start to open up the conversation around this topic. It is important that we work sustainable hours so we can be our best selves. I hope this has helped. I look forward to seeing you again. Be well, love life. Thanks.